right, what do you guys at? We should be right pretty much smack dab at the same time. I just
41.
hit 41.
Yep. Same.
Nice. Got that clap right at the beginning. Heck yeah. All right. You ready, Randall? You look like you're looking something up real quick.
No. Just waiting for us to go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 63, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery.
Hey, everybody.
And John Hines.
Hey there.
And we got the whole crew back again. John is back
Full
from
force.
Literally today, kind of, from a little day vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little day trip.
Trying to go to places where nobody else is, because that's the only way to have a vacation nowadays.
Exactly. That actually sounds pretty nice, though.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, and you got a nice tan, too. You got a nice tan, so.
You're being very generous with the definition of a tan.
It may just be the white wall behind you, but. But yeah, I know last week, Randall and I kind of really hyped up a game from DYA Games, Bot Vice. And I know we're, as we're getting warmed up here, I know you said that you fired that up on your Switch. Did you already have that, or did you pick it up recently? Or
it was on sale. Like,
oh, nice.
You talked it
nice.
up like crazy. You did the hard sell, and I accepted. And then I looked, and I said, oh, not only is this a Switch game, but it's on sale right now. I think it was like $3 or $4. And
oh, nice.
Like you said, it is like me, the video game, being a gallery shooter in a retro style. And yeah, I'm definitely into it. I will say, when I first started, very first thing I noticed is the intro is way too long. It's like way too long.
Way too long. You can skip it, but it's way too long.
You can skip it, but I'm like, let me take this in just to be able to talk about it on the podcast. Let me give it a fair shake. And it just kept going and going and going. And I get it, guys. Like
opening cutscene or like at least playable intro?
No,
it's like a full voice acted like cutscene. Yeah.
It was a while.
Yeah,
I could have skipped it though. Obviously, I will from here on in. But it was like, oh boy, guys! Like, I get what you're going for, but come on, let's go. This is an action game at its core. Like, this is a lot of chatting. But they set up their little premise, and that's cool. I got into the first level. I immediately got my ass kicked. This game's hard.
It is so hard. It is so hard.
I was like, wow, immediate like difficulty wall. And like, I think you had actually mentioned this last week too, remapping the controls.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just kept running into it over and over again. I'm like, I'm just taking shots here. I'm like, okay. Kevin mentioned remapping controls. Let's go into the options. And I had to try like multiple different setups until I finally found something I was comfortable with, which was putting my main shoot button and that aiming button that like can move the cursor to where you want to aim to, whatever the closest enemy is. Both of those were on my back triggers.
Okay.
And then the other action buttons like roll and the saber close-up attack and the flipping between items were on my face buttons. And that's what ended up working for me, where once I had that set up and I kind of got into the zone that I needed to get into with this game, I like whipped right through kind of first try in like levels 2 and 3 and then ran into a wall again by level 4.
Level 3, I don't even think I got past. I might.
It's not easy.
Maybe I got to level 4. I can't remember for sure, but I know it's either 3 or 4. I didn't get to that first boss. Like, you can kind of see that there's like a boss on the like the map, or that's kind of showing your progress.
Yeah.
That kind of looks like Bebop a little bit. Actually, a lot of it.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't quite get there. But yeah, I was already just like, fuck, I am stuck on this level.
Oh yeah.
And I'm on normal difficulty. So
yeah, I did not mess with the difficulty stuff at all. Just kind of left that alone and like, okay, let me just see what this game's about. And yeah, man, it's just like, well, you better put your game face on if you want to do anything here. But I was into that. And then, yeah, just like the same thing immediately stuck out to me. Like, why is there no 2-player in this game? This is like 2-player is screaming to be added to this game. Maybe they'll do so for a sequel. I'd love it if they did that. I will say it would probably be a little bit hectic having that second player, just because there's so much shit going on at all times. And it's like really hard not to take shots from bullets, even though like they're clear enough to see. It's just so hectic with everything happening that it's like you're bound to take hits. But the cover system is great. Like that feels way better than I think it even should for being a 2D game at its heart.
Yeah.
Like it just works.
It like feels right when like a bullet, like at first I was like, that's going to hit me. And like, it just sailed right over my head. And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that kind of just feels right. Yeah. Like I'm under the barrier and it just goes over my head.
Yeah.
But
and I like that there's certain enemies that are trying to attack you, and that you can use the cover system to duck behind stuff. You kind of have this a bit of real estate that you're moving back and forth in this kind of gallery shooter setup near like the bottom of the screen. But then in front of that is like a set of barriers. But there are enemies that aren't just shooting you, they're shooting your barriers down over time, and you have to focus on those guys first and foremost, or you're screwed. Like you can dodge roll away from attacks, but you can't do that forever.
Nope. It eventually it reaches its limit, and you're like, because that dodge roll has like a set distance. Yep. So like eventually, again, it gets so hectic that you might dodge one projectile, but more likely than not, you're jumping right into another one. So
yep.
Yeah. But I'm really glad that you're also digging this one. Did you? You look like you had some more to add on that, or?
Oh, I just really like the soundtrack. Really like the game. I even like the timer aspect of it, where it looks like I think it's an hour that you have technically to beat it, something like that. There's a timer.
I thought it was something down. Random. It's like I thought it was like 33 minutes,
maybe.
And like
yeah.
just some random. But it's like
yeah.
But it's like but it's only it doesn't count. Like it's not a timer that keeps ticking down. Like it's only the time it takes you to beat the level, I think, correct?
Sounds right.
Like if you keep dying, it's not like the timer keeps going down.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
So that kind of makes me think, at least based on what DJ and I played as Strikey Sisters, like we kept thinking like, oh, we're getting close to the end, and then like a new region of the map would open up, and we're like, holy crap, this game is huge. So like maybe this game is decently long, because the levels are, when you beat it, it's only maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, like
per level,
very long levels.
Yeah, like maybe 3. Like it's
at the
those
most,
are intense 3 minutes, but it's But I'm definitely into it. Very, very happy for that recommendation, Kevin.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm glad you're digging it, because it's like the worst feeling when you recommend a game to somebody or a movie or anything, and then they're just like,
watch this.
Especially a movie, when you're watching it with the person, and you can just feel the disappointment in the air. You're just like, God, and they're judging me. Oh man, but I guess we could just move on into the meat of the episode here, and what we've been waiting for you, John, because we finally got a chance. There was a huge Risk of Rain 2 update. I think that it's kind of like officially out now, right? Sort of like it's out of early access, sort of.
I think that,
and then also go ahead.
I think like at this point, like it's all the updates that have been like, because they've been putting out update after update. Like they put like released it to consoles when it was still like fairly in early access, but so many like quality of life improvements, like even like UI overhauls. Like it is like finally in an area that or at a point that it feels like it's like the official release at this point.
Yeah, especially on the Switch, at least, which is where we're all playing it, and we finally got a chance to play it online all together. And I think, Randall, you played like a little bit before we all played together, but this was kind of your first time dipping in, right?
It was, yeah. I played like maybe 2 sessions, like really short, just like, what's this about? Let me just kind of get a hold of the controls so I'm not a complete idiot when I jump on with you guys that have, especially you, John, have way more experience than I do. So I'm like, want to keep up to some degree. So, but really, I didn't know very much at all about this game besides what John had told us before. So yeah, it was like still a pretty fresh experience for me going into us playing together.
Yeah, and I know that when John and I played an online session, like I'd kind of had maybe played more than 1 or 2, but I had played like 10 or 12, about a dozen or so runs by myself, and like was just like, I don't know if I understand what's even going on in this game. Like I'm having fun, but I'm just kind of lost. Like there's so much happening, and there's not a lot of like labeling on things, you know what I mean? You do have to kind of like experiment a little bit. So yeah, the first time I kind of had a session with John, and we actually made a video of that, and he was kind of like explaining and like walking me through like, or walking us through like how to play, and it was just like, I was like, yeah, we gotta, John just is a great person to introduce you to this game.
Freaking guru.
Yeah,
it's fun. I just like showing people things that I love. Like it's and when it boils down to it, it's like I just want to show off and be like, look at this, isn't this cool? This is so, look at all the things you can do.
It was cool. It was amazing.
Well, yeah, we had a really long, like, huge run. We got, like, I think we beat the game, right?
Yes,
we technically beat the game. You can keep infinitely looping. You know, if, again, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's like a third-person shooter action roguelike, if you're not familiar, but with, like, a ton of different characters, ton of different weapons, settings. Like, it is, like, I don't know. It's just kind of nuts. Like, there's so many different buffs and upgrades and power-ups and secrets, and it's just like John showed us a few secrets along the way too that were really, really fun. And like the type of stuff that like you're only going to find this stuff either if somebody shows you or if you're really trying to like nudge at the boundaries of the game. And I really dig that. Like it has this like mysterious vibe, like the world feels kind of alive. And
I would have no idea if John didn't show us that stuff. Just no clue, honestly. Yeah. It was incredible.
And it's such cool stuff. Yeah. Like there's like secret boss battles we had and like secret like zones, like that one mission. And like, I forget, you should probably talk about this, John, but like that mission in like that kind of minefield or that toxic field or whatever.
Oh yeah. The void fields, like
the void fields. Yeah.
But, so yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff that like, I do think the game does like a pretty decent job of like, you know, either nudging you towards like figuring out certain things on your own. But like I did mention like before we played that like round all together that I had inadvertently like actually spoiled how to do 2 unlocks. Cause like a good way that it like gives you hints are like through the challenges page where it'll like give you like, each challenge unlocks either a new item, a new artifact, a new character, and those are pretty decently, like, at the same time, vague, but also, like, you can figure things out. Like, all the, like, ones to unlock characters, I think, are really self-explanatory and really obvious, but there were, like, just a couple, like, and I had played this game for, like, 60 hours, 70 hours, or something like that, and there were just 2 secrets that like I could not figure out, and like I didn't really want to get spoiled on them, but like I did need an additional hint outside of just like the what was given in the game, and like I was honestly a little bummed that like I looked for that, and instead of just getting a tiny hint, got the whole thing spoiled for me. So I was like, I did kind of regret looking into it, but at the same time, as soon as I figured it out, I was like, well, I never would have fucking figured that out on my own. Like,
yes,
I played this game for 70 hours. I'd play it for another 70 and not get any closer to figuring those out. Like, I even like the one that we ended up doing as a group together, like I had figured out half of it, but like I had no way of knowing that was half of figuring it out. Like that could have been like a third or like the entirety. There's a lot of secrets in the game, and I like the fact that, you know, it does a good job of communicating most of it to you. And like even like with this new update, it introduced artifacts. And the thing that I loved about the artifacts is that like there's an area that you have to go to in order to like start the whole process of unlocking an artifact, and the area that you go to front and center has like the clue or whatever, like this tablet that explains or like has a pattern on it. And like I think that is like as obvious as it can get without explicitly stating press these buttons in this order to get that. And then
I still had no clue what that meant at the time. Besides you saying it.
I know, but like I did the same thing that I did where I just led you guys to that area.
Yeah.
And then I didn't tell you anything else. So I just like sat back and watched you guys do it. So like
that's true.
Like, and then like there was in one of the one of the levels, there's a fairly obvious like tablet, but like it's it's either broken in half or kind of obscured, and like then that leads you to like think, oh, maybe there are more of these hidden everywhere, and then that is what like builds your curiosity, and then you start looking for things, and then I just love the way the game like just pushes you like to just explore and do more outside of just like the regular like beat these enemies, move to the teleporter, do the actual point of the game. And like I'm at the point that I'm at in the game, I'm just exploring and just having fun, doing weird challenges or like trying to do the dumbest things that I could possibly do.
Sure. I feel like I would have no idea that those things even existed in this game unless I played with you or like deep dived research online about it, like because the game at its core is just like, yep, shoot the bad guys, get to the teleporter, get to 100%, move on, like upgrades, keep building on it. It's a roguelike, get stronger over time. Oh, you didn't win this time, do it again. But like there's this whole other aspect that blew my mind when you were our guru that like showed us around and showed us, I don't even know, like 4 or 5 major secrets that I'd have no clue about. That was like, I just had a great time with that.
Yeah.
And I got like 4 characters unlocked and like all kinds of shit at the end of that. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was a super fun run. And we haven't even mentioned that, like, we mentioned kind of the quality of life, but they have this thing running on Switch now at like 60 frames per second, like just running totally smooth. Like we didn't really have any hiccups whatsoever. Game. It really did. We were kind of making like our DJ mentioned our buddy Mikey was like saw it in action on him playing on the PS4 one time and was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was Risk of Rain 2. And Mikey's always trying to talk shit about the Switch. But yeah, now playing it now I was like, yeah, he kind of has a point. It does kind of look like a different game. It feels like a different game. It really does. It's so smooth, though. It feels great. And yeah, the artifacts just being like kind of modifiers of different ways you can play the game. Yeah. Just really cool. I don't know if did we unlock any of those in that run or?
Yes,
I think we unlocked
one, right? The first one that like is they have like the tablet right in front of the like
that's
artifact gate. But yeah, like I think I like told you guys to take a screenshot of like the other one that we found in the level. And then like because that is basically what I do is like I'll just hunt around and as soon as I find one, like have that screenshot saved in my Switch and I can just pull that up when I go back next time. And it's so great. I love it.
It's a blast.
Yeah, it's such a good game.
And I will say like I think maybe it is it does take a certain type of person who like honestly, I didn't figure out all the things that I showed you guys after one run. Like I found it out like after dozens and dozens, and it just happened to be that like, oh yeah, like I enjoy playing this game, period. That like little by little I would figure these things out. Like even like I had randomly gotten to one of the secret areas and like I only got to it through one way, and like that felt kind of like a back door kind of way to get to it. And then when like in like hour 60, I figured out the official way or the normal way to get to that secret area, and I was like,
jeez.
Oh, that's something that had never occurred to me until just now. So I could totally see that being frustrating to someone who doesn't necessarily enjoy like just playing the same thing over and over again like I do.
But think of the undercover depth there. That's like amazing. Like multiple pathways to get to these secrets and things like that. Honestly, I will say that was probably one of my favorite multiplayer experience of like the last several years personally. Like I play a lot of online like competitive games, but that was fun. And like I mentioned before, kind of like a Phantasy Star Online type of experience to me that I hadn't felt in a while. And it was great. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point. Yeah, because when I'm playing online, it's usually like Rocket League or just something that I'm just kind of mindlessly competing. But yeah, I'm not usually like teaming up unless I'm playing Diablo. But we all know what my experience with Diablo is. So
okay.
Hey, it's on me. I was going to even mention when Randall said he took a few runs of Risk of Rain before we started. I was like, he took his own advice that I should have taken with Diablo. Yeah. But yeah, I think we can pretty much wrap up the Risk of Rain 2 there, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been spending most of my time this week messing around. Just this last weekend, as of the time that we're recording this, the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam for 2020 just ended.
Yeah.
And if you're, I guess, real quick, if you're unfamiliar with the concept of a game jam, it's like usually just like a set amount of time, and it's the way I think of it is just kind of like those like chef shows where it's like at the last second they're like, and the secret ingredient is this. It's kind of like that. You have like sometimes like this particular game jam was over the weekend, so 48 hours, and then at the last minute they reveal that the theme is out of control, and so you just have to somehow incorporate the theme of out of control in any way that you choose, and then you just have to do all of the coding for the game within 48 hours. There's no real rules to it, and I don't think you win anything really other than just like people find your game and stuff and
that's
whatever.
a pretty big deal though. Like that's a lot of exposure.
I found a ton of awesome little, like I've probably played about a dozen games or so, and I'll just kind of briefly mention a handful that I had a really good time with and I thought were just really unique. One that I thought was really, really fun was a Rotational Shift. And there's actually been a post-jam update of this since that just kind of tweaks some of the bugs. Like, okay, now there's like the stuff that I didn't get to quite tweak, in time for the jam.
That's cool.
But this is actually from Andrew Gleason, who made Which Way, which I also really liked. And this is kind of like an action single-screen puzzle game with like moving conveyor belts. And you have 4 different workers. There's a red, blue, green, and yellow. And then there's like a spinning wheel at the top of the screen that will just spin every like 5 seconds or so, and whatever it lands, kind of like a Wheel of Fortune wheel, but whatever color it lands on, you will then immediately switch to that worker. So you're only controlling one at a time, and you're trying to grab these boxes and just hit your quota. And like on the first level, you have to get 8 boxes to like the end of this like conveyor belt. And like some of the platform, you'll have to like pick up like the red worker with the yellow guy and throw him over, like jump and then throw him over a gap so that you can get to where like the box spawns from. And then every time you collect a box, a new box spawns. But it's just a lot of fun. I couldn't even beat the second level. Like it was so hard.
Sheesh.
I don't know how many levels there are or anything, it wasn't because I was running into bugs or anything. I mean, every once in a while there'd be like a little snag, like I was having a hiccup, like trying to pick up a box or something. But yeah, it was just really tough, but just really charming, really fun. And something that easily, like if this was like fleshed out, like if they had more than 2 days, and a lot of games do, they're able to take the idea from a game jam and evolve it into a full game. So I'm excited to see if any of these get turned into full concepts. But that one was a ton of fun. I also played a game earlier today, actually, called Pongeon. Like kind of like Dungeon, but with Pong instead of dung. But yeah, it's like you are in control. So it's a single screen, like there's a paddle at the bottom of the screen. So kind of like Breakout or Arkanoid.
Yeah.
So as opposed to Pong, more like Breakout or Arkanoid. And when the ball is in play, there's no real consequences for when it's not in play, other than it keeps track of how many times you misses, but or how many times you miss and like die or whatever. Mm-hmm. But when the ball is in play, there's also a beetle that you're in control of in the field that you can move like one tile at a time, like kind of grid based. So it's almost like a top down dungeon puzzle solver.
How are you
like almost like adventure
at the same time?
So as you're moving your character to the left, the paddle is also moving to the left. So like you're always again, sometimes, and the ball also, as it's in play, like the more it ricochets off the wall, it just keeps building up speed over time too. But you're kind of doing like little like Adventures of Lolo type puzzles. Like you got to go get the key and like push this block in front of these. But there's like traps, like there's arrows shooting at the beetle that you got to dodge, and like every time the beetle dies, it goes back to like its initial spawn point. So it gets actually really tough, really tricky. And for all these games too, I actually recorded videos in that 15 minutes of game series that I've been doing on our YouTube channel. So if you're curious about any of these, but I highly recommend just going to check them out, because a lot of them are just available. Like you can play them right in your browser. I think they encourage that, just like, hey, more people will play your game if they can just be browsing around and boot it up. So a couple more I wanted to mention real quick. These were like like kind of at the very top of the charts as far as like just people's ratings. The number one game, which I played a few days before, and I mean I did find these just by browsing the popular games, but it's called You Are Now Possessed, and it's like a tile based movement puzzle game. Where you control a character and like you're moving up, down, left, or right, like one tile at a time.
Yeah.
But once you collect, like on the very first level, you have there's no music, nothing. You collect this ukulele, and then you're possessed after that. And then so every movement you make, there's like a sequence of events below on the bottom of the screen. So like you get one move, and then what your possessed move is like below that. So like you get a turn, and then your possession gets a turn. So it'll be like you move to the left one, and then now it moves you up one tile automatically, and you have no choice. So you kind of have to navigate and make sure you're not falling off like the play field.
That's kind of cool.
Are you aware?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same thing. Is that like telegraphed at the?
Yeah, it's on the bottom of the screen. Too? Yeah, it's on the bottom of the screen, so you always know. Like it's part of the puzzle solving. Like you have to like definitely solve some of the puzzles in very specific ways. Like some of them you can kind of go around in different patterns, but they're very much like prescribed solutions. Like you have to go around this way, and they even incorporate attacking into the game later with enemies. There's only like a little over a dozen levels, but like there'll even be like a sword that is pointing up or a sword that's pointing to the right, and you have to time it perfectly to like, okay, I'm going to be on this tile so that the enemy will then move onto the tile next to me so that my character will auto attack, because you have no means of attacking otherwise. It's all only when you're possessed. So that was actually the number one ranked game it just has like a really cool like pixel art, like Day of the Dead art style.
Nice.
Just a really, really cool game from a developer, like a group of developers called LoneBot. And so I'm really excited to check out more games from them.
Cool concept.
Yeah, and then another one that I also really loved real quick, which was the third ranked game in the Game Jam, like overall, was Pink River. And it's another like arcade roguelike, and you're controlling, you start out with these 7 boxes on a raft, and they consist of your raft. And it's kind of tile based again.
Yeah.
And you control this character that can just move. It's like 2D pixel art, but it's sort of 3D, like isometric art style.
A little bit of a cell shading look on that one too. The look on that's beautiful.
It's really eye popping. Yeah, it's like just really these vibrant, like pink and black and white. Like it's so cool looking. That's definitely why I checked it out.
Oh yeah,
just because it caught my eye. And then you're able to like pick up these boxes. So you're just constantly moving forward down the river, and you have to like pick up the boxes and move them around to avoid different enemies and different. They'll just be like bombs floating in the river and mines, but also different boxes that you can keep picking up to add to your raft. So you're kind of just like breaking your raft apart, splitting it up, and just trying to get like as far down as you can, collect as many gems as you can. I don't know if there's like anything beyond, like if there's an end game. I think it felt more arcadey to me. It felt like it was just like get a high score.
Right.
But I do think that I feel like there was something more, because like you could collect your dead corpse and like recollect all your coins if you had died on the next run. So like, just again, like just so many cool concepts, and just to what people can do. And this is actually made by the developer who made, if you guys are familiar with the game Hell is Other Demons. It's a game that I just noticed on Switch. It's like, I haven't played it, but it just looks really cool. It's just like a really like neon, like single screen bullet hell platform shooter. I don't know. It looks really cool. So I definitely have even extra, like more incentive to want to check that game out now after playing this. So again, yeah, these game jams are, some of the games I mentioned were from developers that I already knew, like Andrew Gleason, but this one is like, man, I'm definitely going to check out. And again, there's a handful more that I've recorded some videos of, but I don't want to just keep rambling about this game jam. But just really, really cool. This is my first time kind of actually not participating in the sense that I made anything, but just like actually playing some of the stuff. And,
right, as it happened. Yeah, and I will put a link in the video description, because the Mark Brown, the like head or the guy of Game Maker's Toolkit, made a video that just came out today, the day we're recording, that of his like favorite 20 games in the. Obviously, he didn't play all 5,000 of them that were submitted, but he said of the ones he played, these were like his 20 favorite concepts. So I'll put a link to that, just so like if you're looking to kind of dabble around and check some stuff out and maybe find a few new developers. I liked your video that you did too on the 15 minutes a game of that Pink River game.
Yeah,
I forget the name of it again, but yeah,
Pink River. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. It was a fun one. The developer even mentioned like, oh, it's fun to watch you try to figure some of that stuff out. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I figured that out, but
but yeah, just the GIF from that, like I wasn't even watching it with sound, like just the way it looked and like the like I don't know, the controls of it like made me like immediately be like, okay, I need to see this. That I need to look more into that.
Yeah, like on the Itch.io page, or when you're like on a lot of pages, or when you're just browsing on Itch.io, if you just hover over like the thumbnail, it'll just start showing you a GIF, and that's like all I needed to see of that game, and I was just like immediately like, yep, downloading that one. I'm gonna try. I have to try that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but I know, John, before you had mentioned that you picked up this game and started playing it a while back, and I know you mentioned you started getting into it again. But what have you been spending some time with lately?
So I've been playing In Other Waters, which is it's billed as a narrative exploration game. It's developed by Jump Over the Age, published by Fellow Traveler. So that's a good company right there. But it caught my eye. Like I think I saw a review of it over on Paste Games, they were describing it as a sort of a Metroidvania, but like in a like top down, like it's a really constrained minimalist game. Like you play as an AI like underwater like aerosuit, like you are on an alien planet and you are a sentient like exploration suit that, you know, someone who is a xenobiologist, you're looking for like alien life forms. Like this doctor, she finds you and she goes in, she's trying to find like her former crew member, or like then that was gone missing on this planet, and there's not a lot of like mobility that you would typically think of in terms of like a Metroidvania. Like the way, like the very beginning of it, I think it just throws you into like navigating the UI, and it's very difficult and not super like evident, but I think it's actually a really effective way because it puts you in like a low stakes, like first settings. You're not going to run out of air. You're not going to run out of power. And it's just nice. Testing. And it kind of fits narratively too, where like, you know, this doctor finds you and like she's trying to like get you to like move to a certain point. But like, even like within the narration, like she doesn't have complete control over you as the like AI in the suit. Like it is sort of a like cooperative effort between the two of you. Like, so she's mostly taking notes as you're observing different flora and fauna underwater in this area, and you're just like very slowly and deliberately like scanning new areas, which are points that you can then like every single thing that you do is a deliberate and like sequential move. So first you have to scan a point before you can move, and then you have to select that point and then you can move to it. So like it is, there are eventually you do get a boost thing, so like you can move a little bit faster, but like even that isn't like an automatic upgrade. You'd have to select and like designate that you are going to use X amount of your oxygen to like and dedicate it to the boost signal. Like it is a very like a just deliberate game. Like I think
deliberate's a good word for that. Sounds like
so you're not in direct control of the character or like the AI that you're controlling.
Like you are in the fact that like, you know, you're the one making all the choices, but like you can't just like move. Like that is not like you're not using a joystick to move in a direction.
Like it's not like top down Zelda style running around the map. Yeah,
you're using one joystick to choose the direction that you are like putting your cursor in, and like then you're moving to that area, and like, but it is such like a robust system. Like you get to like a point that you can collect samples in, and then you select another menu on your UI, and then that like you start rotating the joysticks so that you can make sure that you're lined up properly before you can hit up and down to close the clamps on the like sample, and then it moves it to your sample. Like, but like all throughout all of this, there's just this gorgeous soundtrack that is really good at setting an atmosphere, and like it just looks beautiful. Nice. Like it is a very I don't even like, it's a neon. It's mostly like the first area is like teal and yellow, and there's just a lot of like really striking designs, and like you don't actually see like in the UI you don't see what like organisms look like. They're just either like a collection of dots on that. But then as you collect more and more information, as you scan enough of them, after you like gather enough like organic samples of them and take them back to your base and analyze them, then you eventually unlock like sketches of these. So like that is only through doing a lot of work in the game that you actually get to like, as a player, see what like the like biologist is seeing throughout all of this. And I think like that has been the reward for me. Like, yes, there's a story and there's a lot of exploration, but like every time that I get like enough like information of the game to actually see and be rewarded with just seeing a single sketch of like an alien life form. But like you're getting all of these like context clues, like, oh, this is a really like this is all surrounded by spores that are attacking like your oxygen supply, or like this is just like high currents, but like all you're really seeing is a topographic map and like some dots on your radar system. So like I just think it's a really effective game at like making you want to explore, and just which is again everything that I love to do in these games is just like poke and prod and figure out a little bit explore more. I love it.
Yeah,
that is a really cool format too, to like explore a game this way and be a biologist in a very like minimalist design. And looking at the screenshots, I love just the color schemes that they've chosen.
It's beautiful. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Really like bold and like light striking, just like John said. That was the word I was exactly going to use. But
totally,
it looks really cool. I think I was reading a little thing that they posted on Switch that the developer had written up, and he even said like, I kind of wish imagine if you were like Samus Aran, but you, instead of being a bounty hunter, you were a biologist. Right. And that was kind of like the concept. So pretty cool. But I know, Randall, I know everyone's been, all the talk's been that Donkey Kong Country finally came to the Nintendo Switch Online service. But more likely than not, you already know about Donkey Kong Country.
You would think.
Randall's, Randall's digging through the deep stuff, the deep cuts on the NES. So what have you been playing, Randall?
Yeah, I'm into more of the weird shit. But
well, that's that. I mean,
we can talk Donkey Kong Country. I have no problem with that. But
we love some Donkey Kong. Obviously, I love some Donkey Kong.
Yes, but if you played enough video games, you're aware of Donkey Kong Country. So I bring you to the Immortal on the NES online service, which to me, like, so I've got over 100 NES games. I know about a lot more NES games, but the Immortal was a game that I knew nothing about before I launched it, which is a pretty rare thing on that platform, because I love the NES.
Yeah, I'm also not familiar with this one at all. Like, this is whatever you say is all news to me. I haven't even checked it out on the NES online yet.
Yeah, and this was one of the later-ish NES games in the overall scheme of things. It came out in 1990. Actually, EA was involved in it, which was interesting. But this was a PC game first, and you can definitely tell that it was a PC game of like the 80s before it came to NES. It is that through and through. This game, The Immortal, it's like an isometric dungeon crawler where you play as this old wizard that can shoot fireballs. The control is okay, I would say.
Are you doing some jumping at all?
No jumping.
Because I know some of those isometric games, those like European isometric games with the jumping and platforming are like, ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Sometimes people give too much shit about that, though. Like stuff like Landstalker, people are like, that's unplayable. I'm like, no, it's all right. Like, you just got to get used to it.
It's just a little frustrating is all.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, though. But this is this is isometric, but yeah, you just play an old wizard that walks around and can look at items, or like explore items, open doors, and shoot fireballs. And but unfortunately, it's PC game from that time period, which means it's extremely trial and error in the gameplay, like trap floor tiles that you don't know are there until you've trialed and errored enough times to know exactly which way you're going through each room.
Okay.
And is it like an action game, or is it like have RPG elements? Like,
it wants to be an RPG, but it seems like at its core, it's pretty linear as far as how you should be getting things to open other things.
So are there any like save points, or are you just basically trying to reach the end and beat it in like one sitting?
I did not encounter save points. I only was able to play the first level. This is all from last night because I'm like, let me just check this shit out. But my save points were using the emulator overlay to create save states.
With the thing that makes most of the NES games playable on the Switch Online.
Seriously.
Especially ones like this. So I'm like, oh, nope, fake floor. All right.
Ooh, just rewind.
A couple of screens. Let's try again. Let's go around. Oh, there's a bat I couldn't really see. It took my health down too much. Let's use that rewind feature again. A lot of that. Thankfully, my wife Tina was very patient watching that, where she didn't mind. But it is that. There's also a weird, kind of funny battle system where like there are a few like creature or skeleton enemies that you'll like come up, like you're gonna talk to them, but then you go into this kind of fight sequence where it's you versus them. And the closest thing I can equate the battling to there is kind of like if you've ever played like Blades of Steel or any of the like NHL like 93 games where you're just mashing on the punch button. You can either avoid or you can punch.
So you enter like a separate like battle screen, or is it okay?
Yep.
Okay,
it's a separate battle screen, and the wizard's butt is very well defined. That was something we noticed.
You gotta pay attention to the detail.
Yeah, you do. That's what I'm bringing to this podcast is the details. But yeah, otherwise too, the only other thing that adds a little bit of complexity to that is you have kind of a fatigue meter that builds up, so you can't just spam punch over and over and over again, because they will avoid enough times that then you're leaving yourself open to get slammed, and coming by health is not easy. There's like a couple of times I opened treasure chests that had health, but most of the time it's nowhere to be found. It's just a really harsh early mid 80s PC game that got ported to NES. Cool as a curiosity, but definitely not something I would recommend in general. But if you have the Switch Online service, you can play it.
Yeah, not one that you're adding to your cartridge collection.
No, sorry. I could see people loving this game if they memorized it. It's one of those type of games. Right?
Yeah. Like if you grew up playing it and already have it baked into your brain from it being in your collection as a kid, then you might be able to get some enjoyment out of it. But it's still, like you said, though, it is still cool to like fire up some of these games and just see what they're all about.
Oh, totally.
Even though we've played a lot of retro stuff, I think all of us, but like, we haven't played everything, and haven't even heard of everything in a lot of cases. So
it's especially just fascinating to me because like it does come from like an era that like I don't have any familiarity with in terms of like dungeon crawlers, because like for me it was all like post Doom. So every dungeon crawler that I ever played, like back in the day, was like all like those 3D mazes where the walls were popping up. And so like I'm just like trying to wrap my head around like, how would you approach that game before Doom existed? So like I just think it's fascinating to like think about how like people approached trying to do something similar, but like without like any language to do it in the way that I'm familiar with.
I think that's a good point too, and I think that's why I'm still drawn to a lot of retro experiences, because they haven't been so fine-tuned. People are just is Wild West, right? People are experimenting with different ideas and seeing what worked and what didn't, and iterating or not. Maybe it's just a one-off game that, you know, also happened to be a licensed thing, and that was the only game of its type to exist for a while. Like, I love finding those retro experiences, even if they're clunky. There's always something interesting about them.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, Randall, because back when we had that retro conversation, that was kind of what we had suggested, is like, because that again is kind of that void that indie games sort of fill now, is like exploring these one-off concepts, or you know, maybe there isn't. It's not all about, can we make a sequel out of this, or can we turn it into this bigger thing? It's like, it might just be, especially with these little Game Jam games I was playing, it's like, here's just like a core concept or two. And that, you know, sometimes that limitation just like breeds more creativity, I think.
Absolutely. Yep. That's what draws me to those experiences over and over again.
For sure.
Not more to come with the Immortal. I'm not playing anymore of that.
Fair enough. I still kind of want to check it out just to see what it looks like.
I would recommend checking it out just because you can.
Just to boot it up.
Curiosity.
Yeah. You know me. I got to at least see the title screen. So
actually, the box art is actually really cool for it too. It's like this wizard, and it's like a pretty good box art for the time, which is saying something.
Yeah, you can't say that even about the best NES games.
No.
Some of the best NES games. So
no.
Yeah. But I think we can pretty much call it a week at this point. Yeah, guys?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. Well, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Just all the links are in the episode description at the bottom, and timestamps and all that. Yeah, Discord at the very bottom. There's a free invite. It's an infinite, no expiration invite. Or not free, but yeah, no expiration. But thanks for listening as always, and take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See ya. I don't get why Nintendo. Well, yeah, I mean, yes, it's not surprising that Nintendo treats all of their like IPs like sacred things that you can't mess with.
Yeah.
Or, like,
yes.
But it's such a weird thing to be so like you can't.
It just seems arbitrary.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, being that there's like Mario fucking soccer, Mario 10, it's like it's so far fetched. Like that Mario can do anything else. It's like you can just have multiple Mario universes. It's just that it already is what exists.
Camelot made my man Waluigi, and they're like, "Fucking no, you're done. Nobody's making any more Mario characters."
That was the bridge too far. You're never allowed. No one's doing this ever again. We give you the keys for one tennis game, and look what you did.
20 years, no more.
No, but then they do stupid shit like in Mario Kart, where it's like pink crazy
pink
cat
gold
Peach or something. It's just like sparkly cat Peach Rosalina, baby.
I love the name Pink
Gold
like, Peach. That's great.
It's so crazy.